Welcome to Table Talk, the podcast series where clinical experience informs optimal human function. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Romy.
And our guest today is Simona Negro.
Previously a professional ballet dancer, Simona is now an osteopath, technique tutor at the UCO, personal trainer and Pilates instructor.
We're very excited to have her on today to discuss how experience have informed her clinical healthcare practices. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
There we go. Now we've finally got it nailed down.
Finally, yeah.
Silky smooth.
Yeah, exactly. So just to go into our first question. So could you kind of explain us to what your journey into osteopathy is and kind of how you've got here, basically?
Okay, so I first encountered osteopathy when I was about 19 or 20 years old. I had just graduated from ballet school, and I was in between auditions for joining ballet companies. I had an injury, so I had been off for a while, and I was down because I had been on and off for a while with my injury that I had, one of the many injuries I had. And so because I came here when I was 16 years old to join the Royal Ballet. I had a scholarship there. Then I had to have a legal tutor, legal guardian, because my parents were in Italy. So my tutor guardian, my guardian, he said, I know this osteopath, and he was in Pimlico, and actually everyone knows him as Dolphin Dave. He was a teacher here, he just left. And I didn't find out if he was actually him until the day he left, which was a coincidence here. He was packing up his locker. So this tutor took me there, and it was him there in this beautiful spa in Pimlico. And I'd only had extensive physio treatment up to there and acupuncture because of my injuries. It never quite worked, so I was always back to square one, back to the physio office, because we had a private physio at the ballet school. And I was getting frustrated, and I was losing the will, really, because I was constantly... So he said, try this osteopath. So I didn't know what osteopathy was. I went there, and I just got very impressed, and the curiosity was a lot of how he was approaching the injury. So I had issue with my hip, and he was initially looking anywhere but the hip. And I was thinking, I was a bit puzzled because the physio literally was narrow view, very narrow view. I think the most osteopathic thing the physio at the ballet school did was traction. What I can see now has been traction. But it was very reduction, a little, at the time, in my opinion, what I was having was reductionist. And so I was intrigued, and I started asking questions the way I do. And then that's it. And then I just left it there, kept going there. Injury got better. But then obviously it was quite expensive, and the prospect was I had to have recurrent treatment to keep this at bay, what I had, because I'd had it for a while and I'd ignored it, because that's what you do as a dancer. And then I stopped going there eventually and then I stopped dancing after the injury wouldn't go away. I considered contemporary dance, and then I stopped. So he was the one who offered me the first knowledge that osteopathy existed and how differently they treat from physiotherapy and all that. So that's it. Then I went on to do personal training, Pilates, teaching classes, prenatal, postnatal, all that stuff. And then I decided I was finding it a bit not challenging enough. And I didn't like the self-advertisement thing, the pushy thing, the selling thing of personal training. And so I decided to take on a challenge, and I did an access course, and then I was either physio or osteopathy. Physio would have been just because I was a person who needed a lot of certainty. This is how you do it, this is what it is like, black or white, lots of direction, certain direction. And osteopathy is nothing like that. So that was an interesting transition because my brother, all my family is into medicine. So they were saying, Simona, go for physio, is recognized in Italy as well. At the time, osteopathy was like so out there, you know, in Italy. It was like a 5 years thing and you didn't get a degree after. It was like a diploma. But people were doing it, you know. And they do pretty much everything in Italy, apparently, at the time as well. So I said, okay, so I wanted to do for physio just for that reason. And because you could work NHS, I always liked the idea of being employed. Because all my personal training, physio, all that kind of physio, all the Pilates, dancer as well, you're kind of self-employed unless you find a good company that can, you know, employ you for a long term. So anyway, and then I did the access course, and then I ended up eventually with doing osteopathy anyway, because I was intrigued by the philosophy, and that's it. And then that's how I ended up here. That's how.
It's almost the classic story of coming from injury and finding someone who can actually treat you and give you the answers.
Yeah, I wish I'd found that before, to be honest with you. I wish I found it before. I wish I hadn't been as crazy with my body as I'd been as a dancer, because I was very mobile in the hips, especially. Every dancer has got their own strength. You can either be talented in all sorts, like you can pirouette, you can jump, you can externally rotate, you know, because it's all about lines and all that. So you can have all of the traits. If you have all of the traits naturally, in my opinion, from what I can see, you are less likely to get injured. And also if you're naturally someone who can keep their weight down without sacrificing their foot too much. I had certain attributes naturally, but I had to work others. And also I wasn't listening. I thought that I was invincible with my flexibility. So I was doing crazy stuff with no warm up and all that. And yeah, and then I think my body just asked for that towards the final years of training, because I started when I was 12 years old, professional in academies in Italy. Yeah, so I think so you can see looking back, I hate saying I look back, you know, shouldn't look back, but because it's always good. It's always easier to say, knowing what you know after, look back, but it's not worth to anyone to do that. It's not used to do that. So, but you know, inside of what I know now, I think I have done training-wise quite a few mistakes, maybe nutrition-wise as well, quite a few that maybe they would have allowed me to have more tolerance when dancing and maybe get less injured and more longevity, maybe. I don't know, potentially, I don't know.
It's the classic when you're young though.
Yeah.
You always go and push it too hard.
Yeah, because your body allows you to. There was no rest. You don't rest. It was, we had one day off on a Sunday and we were at Pineapple Dance Works doing ballet class there, because you were worried over one day you were worried that on a Monday you said, oh my god, I can't do what I used to do last week, and it's just mental, you know. Now I can see how mental it is, but because you just live with dancers, you're surrounded by dancers, you refer to them as you almost refer, you live in that bubble from 12 to 20, 19, 20, I lived in that bubble. And because in Italy we used to go to school in the afternoon, it was a private school for dancers, from 4:30 to 8:30 in the evening. Then we had to do private exams at the end of the year for every topic, because it was a private school. We were learning languages. That's what, so you just relate to dancers. You talk about other people as normal. And because you do sound pretty mental, I guess, to other people, you know.
It does become its own microcosm. And
it is.
Even when you're, obviously when you're young, you're happy to push yourself more, and you probably can push yourself more. But my aunt is a dancer, and she was dancing for years and years, and it never really stops. You always have that sort of pressure to continue and just push through the pain. And people end up very, very broken at the end of their careers. Yeah. So what would you say to dancers who develop quite a serious injury? What would you recommend? Yeah, so firstly, depends what type of dancing you're doing and what level you're doing. Professional level, to be honest, every sport is going to have. I cannot see. You have got to be that, I think, very determined and one-way minded, I think, to succeed. You have to have that little bit of that, I think, perfectionist kind of attitude, because that drive, for me, was all about dancing. There was nothing else. No one else, nothing else. Even my family was like, even not very important. That's all I could see. When I was little, actually. When I was younger, even more, when I first started, you know. And you just dream, you know. You are in these top companies, you see the dancers you're aspiring to be, they come and do talk to you. At the Royal Ballet, you go through the bridge, you go behind the stage, you see the dancers that you are,
you're aiming to be, you end up in the lift with them and you're like, what the hell, you know, you're like, this is mental, you know, and then that's all you see, like you're hooked, that's all you want, that's all you see, you don't care about anything else. And so I would say, firstly, consider that injury could happen. Because if you were telling me, people of my family were telling me, what if you don't get into that company? What if you don't do that? And I would do this. And I would just do like a little kid, la la la, stop it. I would get annoyed and angry. That's not gonna happen to me. Don't even say that. I would actually I could see I was pretty mental, you know. Like I would say, there was no option. That's what was gonna happen. That was what I was gonna do, and I had decided where I was. But it doesn't work that way. So I think I wish I had a more realistic and flexible approach, and maybe that would have made me less obsessive about what I was doing. And not everyone is as obsessive, but I'm just obsessive in general. Like people say, I don't know, I obsess over details and stuff like that, and maybe that fired that, maybe that increased that, the nature of what we were doing, always striving for more perfectionism in the lines, in execution is never good enough, you know. And always you want to be above you have to be above somebody, you know. So I would say be realistic, expect injuries may happen. Watch out your nutrition. Although it's a mental world, you know, at the time, I don't know what it is like now. I'm not in touch with, I cut all contacts. But be smart with your eating. Don't do crash, extreme yo-yo, just because you have to, like we had assessments every 3 months, you know, that's how you would either be confirmed your scholarship or not. You would have a partial scholarship or total. I was on a partial one, and where they don't pay for your accommodation, just for your fee at the school, which is very expensive, and food, maybe travel, but it's mainly, for me, it was just the fee at the school. Other people had everything. And I guess depended on how valuable you were to them, really. I know it sounds like, but I guess that's how it was. And so, be smart with your food, be more constant, and, you know, plan your nutrition. Maybe if you're struggling to lose weight or keep your weight down, maybe consult a dietitian that can understand where you're coming from, because normal weight in ballet is not normal weight outside. Mm-hmm. So
looking for something that's sustainable.
Something that is sustainable, and also maybe finding someone who can truly understand the effect on your bone density and all that, because we had people in the White Lodge, which is the lower Royal Ballet School, where they were having stress fractures in their younger years, teenager years. Due to But when I first joined here, they had gone through a crisis where they had bad press in the papers, I believe, because they had eating problems. People were having eating problems, so they had chilled over that. They were much more relaxed. Until the second year, when I was at the ballet school, in the Royal Ballet here, in Italy they were strict all throughout. They would just call you names in class. They would, it was brutal. In Italy it was brutal. There is no, it was like sticking nails in to make you contract, you know, a muscle that you had to. It was brutal. There was no refining around the edge, but you knew where you stand. You knew where you stood there. Whether here, they would allow you to put on weight maybe, or to, until suddenly they tell you something, and you know there is an exam coming, and you're like, and then you crash diet, you starve yourself. So be constant with your weight. Maybe consult someone who understands about ballet or professional training, and they can guide you through a realistic diet for dancers. And if you're struggling, talk, you know. But at the time, there was they don't care. They didn't care at the time. I don't know what it is like now. It's 14 years down the line. So don't know what it is, but at the time, they didn't care. And that's norm. That's the norm.
It seems to be very common across sport with younger people, that all of that mental side is completely wiped out of the picture.
Yeah,
it's just compete, turn up, get the job done.
Yeah.
Don't really care how you do it.
No.
Don't really care about your body, because there's extra bodies around. There's people who can replace you. That's the thing. Like, and that happens. I competed in swimming when I was younger.
Yeah.
And would swim 2 to 3 hours in the morning, 2 to 3 hours in the evening, 6 days a week, and you'd have a recovery day on the 7th. So you're
Yeah.
actually swimming 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And that is just insane. And
It's
you had to
insane.
get up and then go to school. Like, how the fuck are you going to concentrate on anything
No,
that
you
is
can't.
happening? Yeah.
You are always you running on empty all the time. And funny what you said about what did you say about being they don't
younger.
care.
Yeah.
They don't care. It's true. They don't care. I'll give you an example. So second year Royal Ballet School, I did a jump, and as I took off, I sprained my ankle badly as I took off, not even landing. As I took off, I was loading on one leg, complete sprain, massive crutches. Didn't say anything to my parents because I didn't want to worry them. I was living here in a flat on my own when I was 17. 16, we were all living in a dormitory for dancers. There was the male side, obviously, and the women's side. And during the day, it was the door where it was open. You could see the opposite, you know. Yeah. But we were all in one dormitory. But there was a door separating female and males, and there was a couple, which was the parents of one of the soloists at the time of the Royal Ballet. I think he's still in there. He's still in the ballet company now. He's still in the Royal Ballet, and. So they, what was I gonna say? What was I say? I lost my...
sprained your ankle.
I sprained my ankle, and they, I was living on my own, so on crutches everywhere, and I put on weight. So I was very, very slim, obviously, at the time, and I put on, I think, about 5 kilos from when they first offered me the scholarship the year before. They called me in their office, and they basically showed me a picture of the new talent that was going to come in, and basically telling me, you either do something. They said, we don't recognize the person. That was my ballet teacher at the time. Yeah, who didn't like me very much. The second year one, because I was a bit stubborn. And the other one and the director, the ballet director, she's dead now. But the ballet director at the time. And they basically said, we don't recognize, sorry, we don't know, you might not be able to do the exams because you're still on crutches, you have to do a certain number of exams. And you put on weight, so you're big now. And I was still very skinny, but I was...
And also 5 kilos is not a lot.
No. And I was unable, I was down, I was not in a good mind frame. You know, obviously, I was on my own. Here, I mean, family-wise, didn't want to worry them.
And when you're only doing ballet and you can't do that.
You can't do
where
that.
Do you put your energy, like?
Yeah. So I was going there with crutches, observing the others. Possibly, you know, you know what's waiting for you again. How much work you have to do to take yourself back. And at the end of the day, unless you are the most talented in the class, or someone who is truly, truly like one of the best in the school, you are a number at the end of the day. And I know it sounds bad, but at the time, it may have changed now, I don't know, but at the time, that's how it was. And you felt that. And they showed me pictures and they said, by the way, you either lose the weight, and they gave me an example, look how that girl is doing. And this girl was someone who was well known to be bulimic. And taking, you know, things, you know, you were taking laxatives or whatever to kind of, whatever you had to do.
Shed it quickly,
yeah, so, and they gave me that example, and I didn't want to do that. I had a strong medical family behind, and I was telling them, and they scared me, obviously, if you start doing that, you'll develop this cancer and that, don't you? So they scared me well off. And I think, I know, but my roommate used to yo-yo a lot, so, but I never did that, but I did try, you know, we did try laxatives sometimes, until I told my brother again, and he scared the hell out of me, the shit out of me, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do that either, how am I gonna do? I just need to starve then, you know? And so, but just to tell you, they didn't care. Then they sent me a nutritionist, so I was weighed every single week, like if I was, you know, and yeah, so that was the journey, and that was just embarrassing at the same time, because people know you're sent to it's just a mess, you know. It's just...
imagine it's quite challenging to have all
it's
of
challenging.
these different expectations from different places, and being very young.
And peers as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're more at the top, you can see the consideration a bit more, and so you may crave it's not that I was looking for that, but you feel the difference, you know, when you're not at the top of your game, or where you're not in that loop because you are.
Yeah, when you're being judged on like one facet of being a human being, it's very difficult to, and one, especially if you're injured, you can't live up to that.
You can't.
If you're not being judged on anything else, then how the hell do you manage yourself?
Yeah, and then also, but anyway, they started being more tough at the time. So second year 2, when I was here, they started being tougher because a school from Russia, the Vaganova school, came, and they are the most stunning dancers.
They'll be savages.
Yeah, they were like. Once we were having the canteen was at the Royal Opera House. So we had a card from the bridge at Using Covent Garden. We would go to the other side, and the Vaganova came for an exchange that they do, and they brought the skinny obsession madness again. That's when it all started. I remembered, because they were so skinny, so long arms, long neck, everything super long. They were beautiful, hardworking. They were worked hard. Like they were, they had old ways of stretching them as well, like proper forcing it. Old school, they were old school, but they were beautiful. They were stunning dancers. I always thought the Russians were amazing, and so a friend of mine was telling me about this. I didn't see it myself, but she was telling me about it. They were at the canteen, and this girl, who was maybe teenager, she obviously, there was so much food there. Maybe they weren't exposed to that much food in the canteen. She went to grab just a piece of bread with a bit of cheese. It was this small portion of cheese. She had to return it. Her ballet teacher made her return the food because she had been. They were carefully monitored, so you could see the strictness there, how strict they were. And then after that, they left. And then I remember the madness started again. They started coming with the ballet director and some ballet people. They started coming into each class, and they were pointing at people who we didn't know what they were doing, but we heard they were doing that in other classes. You were doing pas de deux, which is when you're doing the stuff with the male, so when they lift you and all that. That was a pas de deux class, because we're doing classical ballet class. Then we would do point work. After lunch, we would do pas de deux, choreography, contemporary, Pilates, body conditioning, character dance, which is when you like folklore. You would do all of that, depending on different days. We didn't do jazz there. In the English National Ballet School, we did jazz. But anyway, so and they were pointing, and we knew, at some point we understood, they were pointing at the people who had to lose weight. Then, after that, they were telling, privately, you were not allowed to do pas de deux, to be lifted if you were slightly overweight. So can you imagine people who had to do that? They had to. Thank God, I had starved by then, and I had lost some weight, so I was a bit more acceptable. I was still injured, and was I still injured? I can't remember exactly. It's a bit blurry now. But anyway, people were looking through the door to see what class, what group they were doing, and they would see people sitting down. They knew that it was because you were overweight, considered. It was, I think it was...
like a culture of shame that's quite insidious.
Yeah, but I think you feel it. Yeah. It's not that... I would have felt that, and I felt for the people who had to do that.
And so coming back to your hip injury, how did you navigate having... the distress of an injury that can ultimately change the course of your career? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I'm serious. Panic, frustrating, ignore it. So I think what it was something that became a chronic tendinopathy of my gluteal muscle, insertional tendinopathy. I couldn't externally rotate my legs. I could not do that. I couldn't go, and everything is externally rotated in ballet, from the first position at the bar, and then that was my strength. My strength was external rotation and then flexibility. So
every time you push off.
Yeah, I couldn't. At some point I couldn't weight bear with an externally rotated leg. It was madness. But I think I knew where it came from. I did something crazy when I was 13, 14 years old, which I think that started it all off. Because then I look back at what may have predisposed me. We think
your osteopathic lenses,
it's better not to do that, but I'm thinking what may have predisposed and set that in motion, because I had a previous injury before when I was in Italy. Anyway, and then I had MRI and all that, and they told me something about my hip, the way it was built, that was a bit different from usual. But anyway, I'll tell you later. Yeah, so it was panic. Go to the physio for your weekly session, little bit of ultrasound at the time, that's what it was, little bit of ultrasound, little bit of traction, and some electrotherapy where they put the electrodes and you were feeling the tingling. Pretty much that's what I was getting. A little bit of improvement in the pain. I would do my rehab with a Pilates teacher. You would tell them we had a private Pilates studios, really, really cute. All this funky equipment, the rotating discs and the Cadillac, all of that, it was cool. And then, we did that. And then I would get better, start dancing again, the injury would come back. Funny enough, I would get to a certain point in my body at the same point, I would feel, okay, I'm getting there. Maybe I'm a 7.5 out of 10 where I could be, or where I was before. And at the same time, maybe roughly about every 3 months or so, even less, then it became more and more, the same pain would come back, same pattern. And it's almost like I was getting through a door and I could not go past that.
It's almost cyclical with the cyclical with the exams.
Yeah.
Where you have to watch your weight.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't think about that.
That's another factor as well when you're having to start dialing back on the nutrition, then you can't recover from the injury in the first place. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. So the pressure: am I going to be able to do the exams? Am I going to have the scholarship confirmed? How many people are not in front of me, but maybe it was me thinking that way, maybe a bit of competitive side there, I don't know, but so lots of things that were going through my head, and I said I do overanalyze.
So was there a point where you thought, no, okay, I'm getting out of this, I'm gonna...
Yeah, I did. When I saw the osteopath, then I started doing some audition. I was thinking contemporary dance, less reliant on turnout, external rotation, because you can work more parallel in contemporary. I had my eyes on Rambert Dance Company. I started doing some classes at the place as well, and my injury would still bother me. After extensive training, or let's say that I couldn't handle the fact that I'd been told you might have to take care a lot of this. You have to do extensive warm-up gradual, you may have to go for acupuncture often, you may have to do treatment often, you may have to modify activity quite often, and it didn't sound good to me because it's already a shorter career, very hard. Because for me, I had to really eat very, very little because I was in competitive sport before then, from a very young age, different sports. I had put on, I was more muscly than needed, naturally. I'm more athletic looking. So for me, to achieve that look, I had to eat even less than others. Others who didn't have as much muscle mass, they could eat more. You see what I mean? So
and that's going to hinder your performance further. Right?
Yeah. So I always wanted to lose muscle, you see. Now I'm like weight training, all that. I don't care. I like to lose strong. I feel strong. At the time I wish I could just cut all, just to get rid of all the muscle. So I decided, saw the osteopath, injury kept coming back, cyclical like that. And then I decided this is enough. I'm not going to have a long career. Is it worth having to train every single day of my life? Having to not be able to eat, and I love my food, and how many years am I gonna get? I wasn't happy with corps de ballet, basic. I wanted to become at least a soloist. That's my goal, at least a soloist, and in good companies, not just random ones. And I said that's not gonna happen. So I stopped, went into fitness, and became personal trainer, teaching fitness classes, all of that, and then I came here.
Nice.
Yeah.
So given this extensive and somewhat ebbed and flowed career in ballet, how has this experience impacted your current healthcare practices? So,
funny enough, I had an interview after I graduated to a ballet school, to a contemporary dance company, to be an osteopath there. That was on the bank, on the river. I don't remember the name of it. But I went for the audition. I didn't really want to get it. I didn't want anything to do. I didn't want to have anything to do with performing people. I just didn't want to. I don't know why.
It's a weird world.
Yes, and I know how weird. I was, to be honest, I was always unappreciative of what the physio was doing. I was expecting results. How dare this injury keeps coming back? What are you doing wrong? Because I'm doing what I think I'm moving. Maybe I'm doing a bit too much, okay? And I was angry. And if he had to make me better. That was his job. So anything different from that, in my eyes, he wasn't doing his job properly. So I know that an elderly person may be much more appreciative than an entitled,
When you're dare I say, young and dumb type mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't know at the time. I'm talking about the time. I don't know what things are like now, but to be a performing type, I think you are. I cannot stereotype, but you have certain characteristics, I gather.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, like every job, and you're an artistic type, and I know what an artistic type is, and I don't think I wanted to do. So I went there. When they didn't offer me the job, someone else went for the job. I was actually kind of happy, because if they would have offered, I would have taken it, but I was anxious about the idea of having to work with. I was anxious. So now the way it informs my practice, if I see dancers, if I treat any of them, I give them advice.
Because you can inform them from that side of things, right?
But I do not expect them to listen. Because I didn't listen at the time. You don't listen.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't expect them to listen. So I expect them to, if they listen, then I would be surprised. I would be, actually, wow. And then I would be wanting to invest more in that person, more of the, more to let them know, because they're listening, they're taking on board. But I wouldn't expect that, because you cannot see. You can almost at the time you think you're invincible with your body, and your body gives so much, and then so I would be that. I would tell them to keep strong, to keep a good nutrition, exactly what I said before. And but I think my background, I'm not saying to do technique you need to be a dancer, but I can feel how my previous work on myself proprioceptively may be having an influence on how I maybe see movement and how I may coach movement, maybe. I guess. I mean, because as dancer you have to feel proprioceptively so much and dissect every movement, and so you focus on the subtlety. The subtlety make the change, and you are fascinated by the detail. And I guess I bring that to what I do. Sometimes too much, obsessing again. I think that's the nature of maybe a combination of me and then what I've been through. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it's beneficial though. I mean, with a dance background myself, I find your explanations very useful, because, like you say, it's all about dissecting things.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if it's just this direction, that direction, just like give it a little jiggle or whatever, that's not as helpful as we would need sometimes.
No,
and having more detail is good.
I think there is steps within steps. When you're explaining something, like could be a movement to a patient, or could be, I think sometimes we jump steps, but you see that I always try to look at the downside of it. Like when I'm teaching, I'm always thinking, with a patient as well, sometimes I do tend to run late at times, because because I always fear they're not understanding what I'm saying. I don't know if it's a language thing as well, although I've been here many years. But always, because I think there's no point in doing something wrong, a movement wrong. I'd rather you not do it. So I'm always scared. I think I preempt what they may be doing wrong, and same in class sometimes. But that could be overwhelming for people. So that's why I look around, the masks don't help. And I look through the eyes, body language, I try to see constantly, oh my God, have I given too much detail? Is this too much for some people? But I always think you can sell more and then take less. So you give 10, they might take 6. But if you give 6, I'm worried you might take 2 out of what. And that's why sometimes I phrase things the way I do. But we still learn. I'm constantly learning, observing more experienced people.
But to be fair, I think you're a fantastic teacher, to be honest.
Thank you, guys.
It's not like we're getting overwhelmed with what's happening. I think the way you explain things is fantastic.
Thank
and it translates a lot easier than some of the other tutors that we've had.
Thank you. We try. I think we all do our best, but I think it's a learning curve. And all the stuff you do, guys, and I can see the point now, working as an osteopath outside, about self-reflection, being a reflective practitioner is a pain in the ass to do. Self-reflection during the course. You're like, just teach me anatomy, physiology, pathology. I loved physiology.
Let's go.
That's it. Why do I have to do this reflective diary? But there is a good point to it, is it can be painful when you're doing it at the beginning, when you are writing, when you're a student, but after it's all about self-reflection, because you are, I mean, thank God I do this, where I come together with other practitioners who I value as very experienced. So I'm constantly trying to steal little tips and keep learning and evolving, and blend from one to the other, and then develop my own identity as a teacher, obviously, but it's a long journey, I think. So you're constantly outside there when you're on your own, it's self-reflection. And yes, it's beautiful to think that you're going to find a practice where you do lots of CPD, and there are practices out there that are. I think I haven't found
that one yet.
those. You can keep searching. Yeah. But I was expecting when I graduated, and this is just my experience, and I was expecting to find place where I was surrounded by other practitioners, because I love multidisciplinary. I love the interaction. What did you do today? I had this patient talking, One of the clinics where I work is like that. There is a physio who is very approachable, very ready to share his knowledge, and and there is an acupuncturist. I don't see her much at all, but with the physio we do exchange, and it makes a difference from the other practice when I'm on my own. You have the key, you go in. And when I first graduated, I was lucky to find a job quickly, thank God, because I was panicking about having time off and then forgetting things. But so I was lucky with that way, but I was on my own,
So is that kind of interconnectedness one of the reasons why you went into teaching straight after you graduated?
Yes, but I never thought I would have. I never thought I could have, would have. Opportunity came, I went for it, thinking nothing would come out of it. As an experiment, more as a self-challenge. What can I do? Can I get this? Can I pass? Can I do this? And also because forever, when I was in technique classes, I always wanted to do that. And I used to ask, what did you do? What did you do to be able to do this? From year 2 full time, so 3 years from graduation, I was already thinking about, I'd love to do that. And so when it came the opportunity, I did, and it keeps you in the loop. For me, it keeps me in the loop, keeps me comparing knowledge, hearing around it, about it, and also not being on my own in practice. Because for me, some practitioners love to be in their own little space, do what they have to do, just with their patients, and that they're happy. I don't thrive like that. I mean, 2-3 days a week, I'm happy. I'm happy to treat patients. I enjoy treating patients, but I love the variety of what this is offering to me, and for me it works. And then with the clinic role as well, which I started a few months ago, to tutoring in clinic, I'm loving the variety, and that's why I work 2 weeks, and then I have 2 days off. And if I could have every weekend off, and financially be good, and maybe would I want? Maybe yes, but I love what I do, and so.
Are you really working if you love what you do?
Yeah, yes, you get tired because of the amount of work, but I love what I do. I love teaching what I teach, and I love the variety of it, and for me it works, so I embrace it.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. Mic drop.
Please don't drop the mic.
I've definitely found that even from taking some of the stuff that we learn in class and then going and practicing it, and then people coming and asking questions and asking about the nuances and trying to teach them, harnesses how I understand it so much more, infinitely more than if I just take the technique, do it, and then try and implement it in an exam or even in a practical scenario. Having that option to almost like to teach the nuances and try and explain it is so much harder and so much easier to understand what you're actually doing after that point.
But I guess you must do that as a dancer, like you said before, and you must do it as a personal trainer. I guess like analyzing things as well.
Because I did because my background was I did a personal training course, then a strength and conditioning course.
Oh, you did that? Oh, it's nice. Then.
Yeah, and then worked for a professional football team in Luxembourg for 2 months, which was amazing. And then moved back over here and went back to personal training as per normal, and then got very bored in the same situation of just the selling yourself.
Oh my god!
And that's, I mean, I did enjoy it. I did like what I was doing, but I didn't feel like I had as much control over my clients' results. Like some people would be very inclined and take on a lot of what they're learning, and be very motivated by it, but then either they drop off and then they're not interested in what they're doing, or it comes to summer and they go away and they end up boozing for 2 months and then come back and are in the same situation as they were before, or they make massive strength changes and are lapsing on their nutrition, for example. And I'm like, okay, look, like, what the fuck? Let's rein this in. Where's the focus?
Exactly.
Where do you want?
The same here.
And I just didn't have the same control, which I didn't like. I didn't like being blamed for something that wasn't necessarily my fault. And like with this, I have full control over what I'm implementing and what I'm teaching to people, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think you said it about personal training. I find that the media don't help. Like, I mean, I'm not on social media.
I've got off recently as well.
Yeah, I was on Facebook briefly because of my group fitness classes. Initially, I just wanted my family on there, you know. But then you teach a class, you go to another club, you teach another class. Obviously, you are interacting with people. They send you a friend request, and obviously, so it wasn't about my family anymore. There were people on there which I was happy to teach to and work with, but what I did there was really to share, you know, stuff that you share with family, you know, but because you can't not accept, sometimes you feel, I don't know, correct me, but...
That's where you're going to try and find that professional boundary is so difficult to manage.
Yeah, because then you see those people and you're like, are you being a snob because you accept the request? You know, people in the class that you see, maybe you're very friendly in the class and you're creating that party atmosphere that you have to do, you know, when you're teaching, and then, but you don't accept the friend request. So what is that friendly aura? And also, yeah, so from there, and then I stopped using it because of that, because, you know, it didn't feel personal, familiar enough to what I wanted, because we all want, I guess, different things. And then I stayed on there because of the group fitness. When I needed cover, the coordinator for the gyms, they would say, have you put a post on the group London group exercise thing page, and then that's how you find cover sometimes. So, but otherwise, you know, with PT, you have to sell yourself a lot. Yeah. And the media, I think they're giving tips that are not realistic for muscle gain. For example, like, you know, you would have these people who look amazing, female, male, whatever you may be looking at, and I don't know, female traditionally they want to increase.
You want a big bum, big legs,
small waist. You know, you want to shape. You want to change the shape. You want to actually modify. But then when you tell them realistically what
you have to do, and the hypertrophy training you have to do, and the heavy weights,
how it works, and the protein intake, and you cannot lose weight at the same time of bulking up, the way people say, which is in quotes, I say that. Yeah. You know, then they look on Instagram, I guess, or whatever, and they see these small, little elastic band exercises, which they're meant to create this beautiful derriere or whatever you're looking for. And it's not achieving that, but they're selling you that because that's what you are gonna more likely people buy into, because they can do that. If you tell people to do heavy weight training and then you have to look at your diet and having this amount of protein per pound of body weight, or because it's hard to be
very, very dialed in.
Yeah, especially for female, it's hard for us to put on muscle. But if you want to change your body weight, you've got to do that.
Well, it's also the biggest misleading thing in the whole fitness industry total is that all these guys and girls that you see who are in the top of their game in the fitness industry, who have millions of followers, turn over ridiculous amounts of money per year, is their job is to look good.
That's all they do.
But they have the way they're going to do that. They'll take any opportunity to be able to do that, and performance-enhancing drugs is going to be one of the first ports of call. Because if you lose that opportunity, you don't have an income.
No.
And so why it would be silly to not take that opportunity, but you can't advertise yourself as someone who doesn't do that.
No. You
so
can't.
It's very, very misleading to be like, okay, this band exercise, for example, or this supplement, if you take this, you'll look like me. It's very, very misleading.
It's unrealistic. It's easy. You know what? People want easy fix. That's why I stopped personal training. I was, like you said, but I was really sick of it. Like if someone asks me, I teach a Pilates class, or I teach something, like at the gym, and they say, do you do personal training? They approach you, they live close by maybe, and then they seem motivated. This is how much it is. Are you motivated? But this is what it is like. Then yes, okay. you know, I can cut an hour in a week to train you, but that's why when you are just searching for clients at the time to train in the gym, that's what you do. You approach people and you talk about training, and that's what at the time what it was in the gym where I was. And and you just become, you cannot select the people you train, so you end up with lots of these people, which is like banging your head against the wall, you know. It's like a non-compliant patient. Yes, we have them, but we can still, and that's, I think also, to be honest, you said something about having control in osteopathy. I don't feel I have.
You don't have full control.
You don't have full control, but you are in a position when you can tell them, like I tell them clearly, we need to work together. It's a partnership with the patient. Tell them in a nice way, of course. I'm not gonna be, actually they do tell them I'm gonna be like, you know, they say yeah boss sometimes. I'm like, I'm not being boss, I'm just telling you in a nice way, you know. I say, you know, if you want your prognosis to be shorter potentially, if you want this maybe to be less likely to reoccur, you do this, but you have to continue doing this when you stop seeing me as well, because of this and that. If you don't do that, you are less likely to, or more likely to, and then you put the ball back in that control.
But you can be realistic, right?
You can be realistic.
And explaining that is super important. I do think something that I've learned very steeply over the last year of treating people is that most of the work is changing their behaviors. Yeah. Really, like the stuff that you do is priming the body so they're able to recover from them. But realistically, if they don't change their behaviors, you're going to be in the same situation again.
And understanding where they're coming from with their behavior, like understanding you believe that. Where is this coming from? Like we do with patient, the belief of pain, yeah? You believe this is this. Why? Like that's what we bother with flags, yellow flags. I think some people like, I use flags in within myself, within my thinking. Do I have a box for flags in real practice outside? I don't. Do I consider them? Yes, because I may use them as predisposing or maintaining factors. But it's understanding, why do you believe that? Where is this coming from? Because if you understand that, then you can approach it more sensitive, in a more sensitive way. Could be any reason, you know. Could be someone close by have had a serious issue that and they lost them. You can't be hard on that. You have to explain in a more tactile understanding manner maybe. So I think, you know, what you said about performing enhancing drugs, things.
They'll be all over through dance as well.
Yeah.
And they'll be everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, but all for fitness, I was thinking at some point to get, because when I was really into fitness, I was like, you know, I'm training hard. That's all I'm doing. So why not
up
the game, you know, and start competing and see if you get sponsorship and all that. I never did. I pulled out of the competition 1 week before because the more you train, the more faults you see in yourself. So
I actually went down the same route. I pulled out of a competition 4 weeks prior to competing.
Because? What was your reason?
For one, I felt like crap.
Yeah.
And I literally felt like I was going to die, trying to diet down. Like not being able to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah,
and
it's
just feeling
awful.
lethargic. Not being able to get out of bed, but also not being able to sleep, which is just miserable. But also just focusing solely on what your body looks like. And it's just exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
So you develop it's really interesting because it's something that I never really understood until I did that, of what like a bad relationship with your body is.
Yeah.
And then I say to myself, I'm like, I just hate it. I hate everything about it. And also because you're dieting down, you look flatter and you look smaller.
And then you panic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a constant, ever-evolving cycle. That's why I'm really not a big fan of the bodybuilding sport. I have massive respect for what they do because I work in a gym with all the guys that are there do bodybuilding, which is fantastic, and they're incredibly dedicated people. And I do a lot of treat most of them. So I obviously inform them a lot of the mental side of things, and so they at least got people around that they can talk to about these types of things, and can at least manage it and know their expectations of what's to come. But managing that is difficult, and you really don't understand it until you do it.
Yeah.
And the cycle of it is very, very, very unhealthy and brutal on the body.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal, it's drastic, depending what category you are getting ready for, obviously. But also remember, this lady was training me, this company I was going to, it was, I'm not going to say, but this person I was training with, which was part of this company, this federation, they were suggesting I should have started taking something. They actually bought them for me. I remember one day when I went there, I didn't want to because I just don't want to. I was like, but that's the game. And you can work your butt off. if you don't, you cannot compete with something that's been enhanced by something else. You can only get so far.
Yeah.
So, like you said, so it's
an inevitable, really.
It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems like it almost came full circle. Seems like it almost came full circle with your ballet journey as well. That contrast and demands between the image and the health and the nutrition expectations and ethics, and it's very, very complicated.
Yeah, there is a conflict there. There is. So it depends how health conscious you are, and I guess the more I left ballet behind me, the more maybe the healthier slowly I've become, in a way of understanding more, because you understand more because you study more, and then you see what you shouldn't do and you try to be better, and you think of, being the healthier you can be for as long as possible, and you train for yourself, because you enjoy it and because you want to stay strong, whatever it is, but I think all of this informs everything I do. And I mean, we all come from different backgrounds. I'm not saying by any means that you need a sporty or fitness or ballet background to do anything or to do this job or to teach. You don't. But for me, it shapes greatly. I think it has shaped.
Yeah, I think understanding movement. Is very necessary to kind of. Well, the thing is, you don't have to understand movement before. You can go in and study it and understand it and go into biomechanics and all things like that. Yeah. But having done it yourself has a great advantage early on to learn. Yeah. To be able to understand how these movements are happening and how the tissues develop and how they can get damaged, what situations they can be in, where they can happen. But I was asked, how has your personal training and Pilates side of your career influenced your
a lot training, again, a lot. Yeah, I did all these things, and as a dancer first, then you have to take care of your own injuries. So yes, you go to physio, but you start, we were doing lots of rehab, self-rehab. I can see now it was rehab. At the time you don't know it's kind of rehab, but we were doing a lot of balancing stuff, a lot of elastic strengthening. There was a lot of rehab stuff when we started studying with Arabella stuff. And especially when we're talking about dancers or certain conditions or whatever, stuff we were doing without knowing we were doing that graded recovery. So I had experienced a lot of that on myself or colleagues of mine, other dancers. So I'd seen that a lot. Then you get into gym, personal training, all that. And again, you build on what previously done. So you build on stuff you were doing on your own body. And you see other people needing that, so you apply the knowledge, and it just keeps building, and then something else adds, and then you go on the route of wanting to get ready for a competition, so you learn other stuff, and then you just build and build. So the Pilates, I think for me, in my opinion, Pilates, personal training as well, they do marry very well with what we do. I'm not saying you should be that. If it doesn't float your boat, it doesn't matter. You'll be good at other stuff. You'll be good. You will add other knowledge and you will contribute in other way. You'll find your way to be the practitioner you need to be. But for me, in my opinion, I think as greatly, I use it on a daily basis. I mean, when I teach, I use the neutral principle. Without explicitly saying that the principle that have been taught in Pilates, but keeping a neutral spine when we're doing techniques. Keeping the spine over when we're doing an HVT or a lumbar roll, keeping that spine. I do visualize some things from Pilates when I'm doing that, maybe without realizing. So it kind of all blends and contributes. And with the patient, I greatly use Pilates, as well as gym stuff, and as well as stuff I used to do myself, And then when we studied rehab, I think rehab with Arabella has been amazing. I greatly admire that lady, like many other of my colleagues. I always did as a student. And and I just think, so you just keep adding to this bag of
tools,
and you just take them out when you need to. And that's why when we teach you techniques, I see that as a bag of big tools, lots of tools. And the more versatile with your communication you can be, if you can appeal to different type of individuals with your communication, you are more likely to attract more variety of patients. We may result in in a better maybe business or better practice, or more variety of practice, more variety of different conditions coming in and age groups and all that. Whether if you maybe just accept, I can just be a certain type that tends to appeal just to older people. So it's fine that as well, it's fine too. But I think I like we naturally tend to draw, I think, certain type of individuals, even from the way we talk. If you're a more assertive type, you might attract a certain type of individual like that. But again, I think if we can mold our communication, body language as well, to according to the patient we've got in front of us, I think that's what ultimately we may want to thrive to do.
It's interesting that you say that, because you're quite direct, but you also studied pediatric osteopathy.
I did, yeah.
So how did that happen? How do you marry your sort of instinctive way of communicating with the little ones?
Ah, dear, the little ones, these little bundles of joy in the clinic.
Do I sense sarcasm there?
No, so I did. If a baby comes through the door, I welcome it. I welcome him or she. But am I drawing lots of pediatric patients in? No, I don't feel there's the parents behind as well to handle. And in a time where they are more vulnerable, maybe, or more susceptible. And I don't know if at this time I do want that added stress of handling little ones. And I find because of I did the pediatric, it was great. Teachers were awesome. COVID didn't help, I think. And I am someone, I would need about 3 years of study to feel comfortable to treat kids the way I am, but it's just me. I don't mean, I know other people who are like, oh yeah, I got that, and I'm fine, I feel more comfortable. I'm not like that. I would have to go, if I had the time, if I wasn't working as much as I am working, I would like to do a master's. Because it's tiring to treat adults sometimes. I'm getting quite heavier built patients recently, and it's tiring. So if I wasn't teaching here, then I would have to do maybe that 5-6 days a week, and I would get that type of morphology. I can try to use my body weight as much as I possibly can, but there is a limit. You do get tired. And so in that case, I would be exploring more my pediatric and dive more onto that route if I had to. But I know I would want to go and do a more 2 years masters of something like that, and then maybe do some cranial on top.
Just to perfect the craft a little bit more.
Yeah, but to know the pathology as well, because the way I am, over worrying, I tend to overanalyze and all that, and over worry if I missed, obvious things. And so I found with pediatrics, every few years they've got their own pathology. They're ever-changing morphology and skeleton, and I don't feel I have enough knowledge of that, so I'm not going to improvise myself.
Yeah, understanding the adult body is hard enough.
Exactly. And we are kind of the final product after, but you've got the teenage years, the infants, the baby, the intrauterus thing. You've got to consider what the mom has gone through that may have reflected on the baby. There is this, I see this so much complexity there. And I feel, for me, to do justice by a mother and a baby, without having to improvise myself, I feel I may need to take on a master or something like that to appreciate that pathology and physiology, because I don't like to improvise myself.
Especially with health, it's not the best area to be improvising.
not improvising, but like when we did the electives here, we had the visceral, we had the advanced spinal. The teachers, again, were great, and some people did use quite a lot of the techniques we learned in visceral. I maybe am still employing a couple of those because I need to feel I'm at a good level to employ them. Whether other people might do, let me put the hand on the tummy and let me go towards the position of ease or away and feel the tension in the tissue, and then maybe dive more in and see what I feel. I might not want to invest time on a patient when I know I can do other stuff that I feel more competent and confident in. So while other people might do that, both, I don't know, you might argue both, and there's good and bad sides to both of these approaches, I guess, but that's just me. So.
And leading on from the pediatrics, why were you drawn to working with pregnant women in your Pilates practice?
So because there was demand for it, I have to say. There was demand in the gym. At the gym, they were thinking of putting a prenatal and antenatal and postnatal class. So I went to I did my Pilates with body control, which they're quite they're very strict. Like dancers, other people recommended that. I think the dancers were drawn to that because of the strict of the details and the precision but there's many other companies there and so I was drawn because of that, because there was a demand potentially in the gym. Quite a lot of pregnant people in UK London, I would say, like, I mean, no,
I think so too. Yeah.
I mean, lots of babies, right? And compared to what I think maybe Italy, for example, where people, I guess, is changing. There is a shift there, I've heard, because I haven't been, living in Italy stable in a long time. But there is a shift where there's less pregnancies and less marriages and, all of that. But here is a lot of, pregnancies, I guess. And
I think there's also an increased awareness around pregnancy and health and optimizing yourself as a pregnant woman. There's a big media trend as well around that, I think, as well.
Yeah, there is. And unfortunately, we are not dictated and driven by the media. It's like these cycles of this wave of trends, like you say. And there is a trend for it. I mean, and it's not just a trend. I feel that it's beneficial. Pilates in prenatal and postnatal, in someone who is already doing Pilates, of course, we have got the critical period where you might want to avoid. And I do tend to avoid when I was, running classes for prenatal and postnatal. If someone was new to Pilates or to fitness and they were in that critical time where obviously in osteopathy as well, we don't want to treat, not because there is evidence, there is no, as far as I know, I may be wrong, but last time I checked, there was no strict, you cannot do Pilates because this leads to this. Mm-hmm. It might not. It's more like we tell you guys, it's because you don't want the person to be thinking, oh, was the Pilates, was the osteopath that caused a miscarriage or something. So I just stay clear of that. But I think there is, if you're regular to exercise or you start with gentle Pilates, I think there is a lot of value and benefit for pregnancy tailored exercising.
Right. And what kind of benefits would you say?
So I just feel for the mind as well, to realign the baby, help to realign the 4-point kneeling position, that kind of, tabletop position can actually, doing proper movement, there is suggestion you can help really to align the fetus if they're breached or not. You can kind of, it can help to realign the baby, like squatting type of motion as well, but gentle. All of that, the 4-point kneeling is absolutely brilliant for women. And also awareness of pelvic floor, prepare them for labor. It's not like we are preparing them for labor, but that awareness of their pelvic floor and, with the other stuff they may be doing outside in prep for the labor. And also the distressing element, the self-control element. You feel you're doing something, you're not just... Some women I found that they felt that they were overwhelmed by the pregnancy. They almost could not recognize themselves in what was going on.
It's gone through such drastic, incredible changes to your body. Like you need to relearn how to use it again.
Yeah.
It's a new tool.
And they were reporting clumsiness the way they would report it, the foggy brain you go through, these are words that they were saying, and that the proprioception was affected. So guiding them through that process to achieve a better journey, to have a better journey. And they felt they were doing something that was proactive. They were taking care of themselves. Some women they felt they were fearful that they would have to stop doing everything and then they would lose what they had before. So, lots of benefit, I think, physical, on many levels, because we're never just targeting one level, and mentally as well, confidence and benefits for the baby as well, I would say, and post-pregnancy as well, for really, really good, I think. Obviously, you've got to think of all the contraindications, and you've got to know your stuff to kind of be safe. But yeah, I think so. And you're walking through the journey with them. Yeah. So emotionally as well, sometimes you do get engaged in conversations where you can be, you're not offering advice, but you're just listening, like we do as osteopaths, I guess. So I think they go hand in hand as well. Yeah.
And relating to that sort of more human aspect, interaction, sort of acting as almost counsellors in healthcare, how do you go about protecting yourself from whatever may be coming your way?
Yeah, I'm very aware of not stepping boundaries. Like someone asked me in clinic, I think, what did they say about, was one of the first day I was observing, I think I was still observing a few months ago. And they were saying, we're talking about the holistic side of osteopathy, like what does it mean for us to be holistic? My view of that, based on studies I've done and the way I practice, is that again, we need to appreciate the multifactorial, how can I say, this group of factors that the person is. Yeah, Soren goes about the biopsychosocial, right? I think that's really, the multi-picture thing that is a person. We got to understand that, but not to address it ourselves. We address the MSK element and obviously all the neurological effects we have and neurohormonal link and all that stuff, the power of touch, of listening, of reassurance, all of that, we do that. But I don't feel, if I had the psychological skills knowledge to step into the psychology realm, maybe I would, but I'm aware I don't have those skills. So I will acknowledge a patient may need extra help and refer where needed. I'm very strong on that. Like really understanding from a legal point of view as well. I guess because I over worry, I always think, am I doing what is in my power to do, or am I overstepping? So I listen to patients. I don't give psychological advice. I listen just listen, and I try not to express view, because it's not our job to judge at all or to, I don't know, it's tricky. You've got to just listen and acknowledge and maybe offer, but I don't feel I can offer guidance from a psychological point of view. I might offer in terms of stress. So as far as, giving some relaxation tips, how to use the respiration, everything related to osteopathy. But as soon as it steps outside that, I think I can reasonably recognize when there may be people that may tempt you to step over that, and don't step over, and then refer. That's what I think we do. We refer where needed to the appropriate person who can be the best at what they can do. Right. So I think that's what holistic, I think, for me is. And obviously acknowledging that it's not just what we do with the hands, is a lot of how we portray ourselves, the reassurance, and I'm a lot by explaining. Like you can imagine, I try to empower the patient by explaining. Like I need them to leave. I hate, that's a strong word. I feel a bit discouraged when I have a patient who has had repeated episodes of an issue. They've been under the care of other people, and they have no clue what has gone on previously. And again, it could be that the patient doesn't remember, could be that they weren't listening, or they had that external locus of control where no agency, where they were like, I'm not interested in knowing what's going on. So you have to think of all that. But often happens, even they go to their GP or anything, and they don't have an explanation what's going on with their own body. I find that absurd. Drives me a bit mad. I keep calm, of course. You don't run anyone down. You just say nothing, and you just say, okay, I would love if you could understand what's going on with your body. And so I'm really advocate for that. So that's why I guess I may sometimes run late, because I'm obsessive about them understanding and shifting immediately and knowing where they stand and where I stand, and re-emphasizing that it's their body. And this I do hate. When people say, and it's just me, when people say fixing. Do you have patients that say, this person or that person, or I think they fixed this in place, or can you fix this to me, or what is your expectation from this treatment? You will go to clinic and you will be asking that. What are you expecting from me today? I always ask this question to see if I can match expectation. And they might say, I just want you to fix my back. And immediately, I don't react, of course, but within I'm like I start twitching, and my foot start kicking, I don't know, but I feel an internal twitch, because some people may do, but I feel the moment we say fix, we put ourselves in an above position, which is like we are above, and we have this this strong power of fixing someone else. So I immediately shift and I say, sorry, I do not fix anything here. I can facilitate your own body to find its own way to heal itself, because you can do that. You can do that, and I'll try to offer you the tools to do that. But I need you to believe that you can do that.
That's quite an empowering way of approaching it as well, because it changes the way you will view yourself mentally about this injury. Because a lot of as people come in with like debilitating back pain, a lot of time it's been happening for a long period of time. And if then you give them like, okay, you are the one who's going to fix yourself, I'm just going to help you, then your whole view will change about how you see your body and how you're going to react.
And there was something actually happened last week I think, in clinic. Someone asked me, very, very good student. I think this person is a good student in a way that this person is self-reflective. I think this person reflects, and I like that. And they were saying, I'm going to use they because they were saying, this person was saying, but I don't know what I'm doing here. Wouldn't this injury recover on its own anyway? And I said, most injury are likely to recover on their own, but what I've learned so far and the way I see things, and this is just me, the way I decide to practice, is that I feel I'm just facilitating and hopefully speeding up a little that process that is already going on in that person, or by offering whatever it is, whether it's a mental barrier or whatever, removing barriers in their way of their natural recovery, which will come. It's just a matter of when. So hopefully if I can with any tools I have, whether it's communication, reassurance, send them to read a paper, read a document, or whatever it is, because I use different sources to convey to different people with patients, then they can they can understand that I'm just facilitating, and hopefully that injury may heal a little quicker. That's all. Because as I said, I don't agree with the thing of fixing or
accelerating.
And I love that philosophy of old osteopathy. I think it's still valid now. We call them the old principle, but when the body is its own machine that recovers itself, the body is its own medicine's chest. I know that with different ways how people interpret that, but my way is that the body, the person, this human being can heal themselves, and I'm just hopefully trying to do that, to various barriers, which are predisposing, maintaining, and our holistic way of hopefully see the person. Yeah, so that's it really, yeah.
And it's interesting because I think some people might really not care about what is going on, but I think a lot of people find even just the words physiology and anatomy and neuroscience very, very intimidating, and might just almost block themselves off from it. And if someone's willing to explain to you things in detail that you can understand, you find that a lot of people are actually really interested and go, oh yeah, that makes sense because of this. And because everyone is thinking about what's going on all the time. They just don't have the words for it necessarily. And I annoy my friends all the time by explaining these weird mechanisms that we've learned about, but they start off quite skeptical, and then they end up being like, oh yeah,
because because I think it's all communication, and it's bloody hard. Am I tired after? I mean, that's why I know I couldn't do 6 days a week of all day of practice, because to practice to that level of intensity, I know I would compromise quality. I know I might not be able to explain things and engage patients as much as I try to do. I might not do, I don't know what job I am doing, but I'm trying to do what I can do and try to improve in the way with every, all the time. But I mean, there's only so much you can do. And also, what was going to say? You see, I lose myself because I'm trying to say something else, and then I lost myself. Sorry, guys.
Thinking about giving people too much information.
Yeah, too much information. So I think that that's why I cannot work. I could not see myself working 6 days a week, because I am exhausted at the end of a whole working day. And maybe I've seen only, I don't know, like on Tuesday, maybe 9-10 patients, but that's for me is enough.
That's still a lot.
Because that interaction takes out of me, because I'm constantly talking and trying to, get them on board with their health and explaining things and also explaining in a way, like explaining pain, trying to explain pain in a way, chronic pain, or it's tricky. But I think, yeah, but you got to use lame terms and all that, and some people look at you, and then you find another way to turn the corner and explain, or you might refer them to a podcast or a paper or an article or whatever,
That's really interesting that you actually give people proper resources. You're not
explaining,
you're actually telling them.
Depends how interested they are. If I see the person just wants to, again, more external locus, not enough agency, not enough, self-care, try to shift that. I'm not gonna bother, I might tell them in simple terms, and then as they hopefully turn to the bright side instead of being on the dark side, if they turn on that, then I might feed them a bit more. I might say, oh, check this out, or look at this, I use my anatomy app sometimes. But again, you get that vibe from patients, like you get with students as well, I guess. The ones that want to
engage a little bit more.
A bit more, and that's not, no, that's not enough for me. I want to know more. And then you're like, okay, I'll show you. But if someone is not interested, like,
it's a difficult balance.
Yeah, I was talking to Arabella and other two colleagues yesterday, and we were talking about clinical encounters. It was really nice. We just went to, for a chat, everyone in the evening, and have a drink or something. And it was so nice because we were talking about unusual encounters, yeah? And I went far and beyond. For one person, I had a patient recently, this was a few months ago maybe, there was this beautiful running protocol Arabella put together. She had taught students. I'd been observing her during rehab, and I thought, that's amazing. That's good. I'm gonna take that. So, because you get quite a few runners, right? That's quite, and you can see on the road they shouldn't be running, or they're not ready, and you are like, no kidding, you're getting what you're getting. You can see. And so I was excited about this, and she wanted to go back running, and she had done this couch to 5K, which I'm not sure how I view that, because I've seen quite a few people not health-wise not ending up well. Maybe they're not following rightly, I don't know. But this lady obviously was not made for idea. There's a lot of Q angle, no ideal balance. You could see she didn't have the muscle and the proprioceptive feel. Anyway, so I proposed this running protocol because I can see your running means a lot to you. So I wanted to show that I was caring for her interest. And then I talk her through. She said yes, obviously I talk her through. But after I found out in the second appointment that she was not understanding anything of what I was saying, she was like almost unappreciative completely of why was I bothering with it. And I explained to her, and I had explained to her all along, and I thought, but this was a patient that she always, from the very first appointment, and even the receptionist had a sense about this patient, like just something, not odd, but something strange. It looked like she was not believing a word you were saying from the very first encounter, like squinting the eyes and almost looked like tilting the head and almost like, that can't be it. It was the first time to osteopathy, I think, especially at that clinic. Yeah, and then she almost started crying, and obviously I was puzzled, and I was trying to do my best, and I had been communicating and writing down everything I'd said for legal. And then I was like, but are you okay? Why, what's happening? And, I just don't understand. Why are you investing this time in talking me through this stuff? And I explained to her, you said running is so important to you, and obviously, and yeah, I told her to do part one of the protocol, like just a few things she did the whole protocol. She came back, she avoided the first part altogether. Thank God I written on my notes. I explained stage by stage. And yeah, she came with more pain. After the second appointment, one more, and then she was better. But I pretty much apologized, of course. I'm sorry you feel that way. I tell you why I was doing this. I was hoping it would have been clear, but maybe I didn't, portray that well enough. I apologize. You need to be happy. You need to be happy with you need to be okay on board with what we're doing. You don't have to be, but you need to have that with me as a practitioner. So if you feel I'm not matching your expectations or doing something that is not matching what you expect, there's more practitioners here, I said, and I'm not going to come with you at the end to receptions to book your appointment, because I want you to really think hard about this. And if you feel I'm not although I'm trying, but you don't think I'm a fit for what you may be looking for, then please feel free, and nothing personal taken, no offense taken. Please feel free to book with 2 or 3 of the other people. But then I was puzzled. I was telling another colleague here about this because I just could not understand what. I reflected on that a lot. I was like, what? How did that happen? But then you don't know internal factors about this person. You don't know. And she wasn't someone to open up much. And I always knew her 2 times, like twice. But then she booked back with me. And she had changed. She had a shift of attitude by then. She was not as squinting, as doubting. And she had got much better, obviously. Like from 8, she was down to a 2. But she had listened. She started listening. And then... And this colleague, funny enough, said, I bet she booked back with you. Yeah, she did. I was puzzled. She didn't know she was going to get better, but just to tell you how unpredictable people can be, and we can only try to do our best and come from a good place,
But almost that clear shift of honesty.
Yeah, maybe that's what people said. Maybe that's what she appreciated. I don't know, like.
Because I think in personal experience of going to a lot of other practitioners, because that's also what drew me to osteopathy in the first place, was that when I booked in with the osteopath, he didn't just be like, book you back in, see you next week. He was like, go away, see how you feel, see how you adapt over the next week, and then we'll contact you in a week's time, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
As opposed to everyone else been like, I saw a chiropractor, saw a physio, and they're just like, look, okay, cool, turn up, didn't tell you about anything of what they were doing, why they were doing it, didn't go any extra mile over the top, didn't look at any of the other factors, but... and just kind of left you very much in the dark.
Yeah.
But being very honest and very direct and be like, look, I'm doing this for this reason. And if you're not happy with that, that's fine. You can go somewhere else. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're being
I mean,
legit.
I would appreciate that. And, and I even had a patient, I was telling again as well, colleagues yesterday when we went out, I had this patient telling me that I should be more business-minded. Like, you shouldn't do extra time with people, like you should be business-minded. And... Again, this patient, just a difficult encounter, just running, like, was 10 minutes late and opened the door, and this patient was like, wow, like the reaction was unreal. And this person was meant to be a massage person as well, like in the business, in the kind of, I was shocked, took me by surprise. And I'm not going to tell you about the details, but endless apology, of course, because I always think, although you are... How can I say, you feel like reacting, and I'm Italian, come on, but, so this is what osteopathy taught me as well. Like, you're the practitioner, you've got to have your retain and coolness, although it's hard sometimes. So I just apologized to her, and although I'm working for somebody else, was not my practice, I offered her not to pay for that, and of course she came down a lot after when I did that. But it all ended up with a hug, the encounter, from like shouting to when she left the room, there was a couple of hugs there, and we I'm doing this because I care about, I feel it, I care about you, I want to give you advice, and of course I took them on board, but and I got told you need to be more business-like, but then that ended up with me nicely offering the option, off you go, there's other practitioners here who are much less likely to run late, although it's not an excuse. I'm working on that. I'm working on being on time with every patient. But this was a patient who had trouble getting dressed and other things, and so it's not justification, but I guess that's what I'm giving as a justification for that. So then everything was left nicely. She was fine. Everything was fine. But she said she wasn't even happy with the option to see another practitioner. I was like, yeah, she was not happy with that. She was like, okay, so by the way, you may want to see some other people here, because I was trying to, literally what I said was, other people here I think they may be much better than I am at time management, because I cannot guarantee you this is not going to happen again. And if you're not, rightly so, I said, you're not willing, you cannot wait 5-10 minutes. I cannot guarantee you 5 minutes are not going to happen again. And because that's not what you expect, you may want to, is that your answer then, to send me to somebody else? So I didn't know what to say rightly there. Yeah, and then I said, no, that's not my answer, but I cannot feel on edge if I know that you're waiting there, and if I run 5 minutes because I have someone who cannot get dressed quickly enough. So because you are looking for that, for on time people all the time, I think someone else may be more appropriate. So she saw somebody else and they were fine. They told me about it. She was no hard feelings left. There was actually a good shift there. I was very surprised how we started. And now, so I was kind of not proud, but in a way how I kept cool and how the shift.
It shows the value of communication.
Yeah, it's everything. Yeah. I cannot stress. I think your communication classes, I would find them hard to teach because I think there's a lot of gray areas, where it all depends on the situation, the person. But, I think they're so important. Communication, the more I work, the more I teach, the more I find communication is absolutely, can be the savior of many issues that otherwise may escalate.
The situations you just described really show how difficult self-reflective practice can be.
Yeah.
You want to try and be objective, but also sometimes the issue is with the patient.
Yeah.
But obviously sometimes the issue is with you as a practitioner.
Yeah.
Finding that kind of, the truth really to a certain extent. So do you talk about the experiences with your colleagues quite often, or is that something that's done?
The colleagues I feel I can talk to, obviously not every colleague I would talk to, but the people I feel, there's some people I feel very comfortable, and it's really good that I feel like that, and it's colleagues that I know they're not going to judge and they're going to just offer insight. So you see, sometimes it's not that someone will judge you, but you feel that they may judge you. So I feel comfortable with talking to certain people, so I do talk sometimes, but again, I try to and anything that happens, I always let the principal know. I do not keep that. I called my principal immediately because I'm like that. I have to stop doing this, but I think I tend to I tend to bring forward the negative I may have done sometimes.
You snitch on yourself.
Yeah, and I've always done that. And it's always like I highlight the negative and undermine the positive. And I am aware I do that. But that's what I did. Maybe somebody else wouldn't have said it because he ended up okay. But I had to put my brake in front. So I called her up immediately, explained. She was fine. She was really understanding. And and obviously I was expecting to have to pay for that appointment myself. Because in one of the clinics where I work, I would have expected that. Yeah. But she was fine and I didn't have to. And so communication again, you see? Communication. Because
it's better to be honest in general, even if you think it's going to actually put you in a worse situation than before. Very often, even like you were all saying just before, just the fact that you're being honest will make people feel a bit better about what has happened. And don't get me wrong, I learned it's an ongoing process of being on time. Yes, for me it's one of my ongoing challenges. I am learning, I'm getting better and better. But it depends on the demographic, and also depends what kind of frame of mind you're in. If you're even sleeping less, I found affects me. Like if you sleep less, even less coffee, but even something like this could have a little bit more of take me a little longer to organize things I'm saying or doing, even little details like that, because you self-analyze, right? And so
I found a quote, a book there. If you should go and read Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and that all talks about what the effects on the brain is with sleep. And it's actually the largest cornerstone before food in terms of brain and body function. It's fascinating. If you want to learn some cool stuff about that.
There was a colleague of mine, Italian. He graduated. He is the one who moved from the part-time course to the full-time course with me, and he was a peer, an Italian, self-reflective, awesome practitioner. He started to earn extra money. He was doing sport massage as well, very good sport masseur, and he started working in a clinic, sleep clinic, observing. He was doing the guards at night because it was good money, and he would do the night shift observing children. I think it was only children or patients, I don't know, who had sleeping issue, so they were monitoring them overnight. So he started reading about stuff. Once he came at the beginning, he started talking to us about the effect of that and how he was getting more fascinated by the effect of sleeping on the immune system or everything, and it's amazing. Like all that would be just a great topic on its own. Like
you could talk for hours
about it
alone. Yeah, it's incredible.
And that's why you see acknowledging the sleeping, the food, all these aspects of a patient. Again, are we going to cure the sleeping issue? If we can do something, we will do, but otherwise refer. But acknowledge that may have an impact, and and then go read about it. Find a research or something, or to understand, and then maybe explain. You see, that was something I may do if I think sleeping is an issue for a patient, a real issue, and they do not see it as an issue. I'm not going to make an issue out of it, but I might say, why don't you read this?
Yeah. I've recommended that book to so many people, because I mean, a lot of the guys and girls that train in the gym also are night shift workers.
Oh,
and so
effect on training.
A massive effect on training, and also they come in and after a night shift are going to try and lift maximal weights and things, and they're coming out and wondering why they're getting injured or why they're not recovering. Crazy. I'm like, okay, come on, all right, have a little read of this and then come back, and then they're like, what the fuck? And so many people have left their jobs actually and switched jobs because of that.
Changing lives.
Which is great, literally changing lives, But and it's also it's fascinating that the amount of people that come and you treat them and you give them the right tools and you communicate it correctly, but then they're still struggling and the recovery is slower than expected. And you're looking, okay, what can it be? Like, what's your food like? That eat this, and sometimes they're regimented diets. So, so there's enough food there, that's fine. But then actually the largest factor is that they might have like an espresso after dinner. And they're not getting any good quality sleep. Yeah. It takes 12 hours for the half-life of caffeine to get, or the other half of caffeine is 12 hours. So you've got half of it in your system. Yeah. 12 hours after you drank it. That's insane. Yeah. You're not going to get any good sleep after that. But people will have that routinely every night. And actually, the Italians especially love the coffee in the evening. Yeah. It's crazy.
The mocha, the thing that does this kind of noise, and then you see the coffee. At some point, I guess she had maybe 2 or 3 of those. And even right before go to bed, because you develop a tolerance. Then if you stop having that and then you desensitize your body, then you introduce it again, then has that effect again. But unbelievable.
It's crazy how much they can suck down with no worries. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's and that espresso intense, proper.
Yeah, it's the good stuff.
Yeah. Strong.
Yeah, because you've spoken quite a lot about self-reflection and things like that. I was just wondering, how do you avoid becoming stale in your practice?
I'm scared of that constantly. I was talking to a colleague today about it. How I, even when I teach, love teaching with other people, because I think it's about... It scares me so much that, especially I'm thinking 20 years down the line, but I guess someone said to me, if you're scared about it, it's never going to happen. Because I think
fear is a great motivator. Fear is
it is. Yeah. And I am so fearful of that. I'm so fearful of, even when I feel I have a technique, I always worry, oh my God, what? And I was the same when I was dancing. Oh my God, you really feel you got something, or you have a good vibe from that technique, you're like, it's reproducible, you're doing it well, for example, just one of the things. And I immediately get scared of losing that. And then I start over-analyzing it, and then I lose it. And then I stop caring that I lost it, because I'm like, is it crazy, isn't it? Did you see,
I've literally had this exact same cycle from last year. Because, for our first, formative exam, so we came in and I thought I had the techniques nailed down. I was like, it's all cool. Turned up, missed the train coming in. I was all flustered. Hadn't done enough anatomy at all. Chris Williams was the person assessing me, and we had the foot. And that was by far my worst one. And I freaked out. And he literally just, as soon as I got one question wrong, he just came after me. And it was so intense. But that scared me so much into learning the foot that it was one of my best ones by far. And then by the time it came to the final one, I was like, okay, cool, I really have this nailed down. And then when it came after the exams, I was like, this is my favourite bit by far. Over the summer,
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. I'm like, I've nailed this. Once I'm like, this is probably my
Yeah.
best bit. Lost it.
Yeah.
Cannot get it right.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel natural. Doesn't feel the same.
And at the
And I
moment,
just-
the moment you reach that, not zen, but that kind of like, as a dancer, it was the same. You study, oh my God, I'm doing 3-4 pirouettes now. What did I do? And then self-analyzing. Why is it working? That's why I say to students as well, because I think it's the massive thing. Otherwise, it's by chance. It's happening by chance. If I'm like analyzing, I'm like, you know, that's why I say this to students, and I say this to myself, like, why did it work suddenly? Why is suddenly this is starting to, what am I doing different? Because that become reproducible, hopefully. If you analyze and you're like, you find those points, it's self-analysis, but also it's like, okay, I actually don't like self-analysis. It drives, because I overanalyze, it can drive anxiety. But, you know, that's why a balance, again, is about balance, isn't it? But if you can reproduce it, then you can have, but yeah, I have some, you know, you can do something, you're like, oh my God, I can suddenly do this. Why is this? Oh my God, what if I'm not able to do it suddenly again? Then you obsess, then you're overanalyzing over this, and then you lose it. And you're like, oh shit, I lost it. And then you stop overanalyzing, you accept it, and then it comes back again. And that's why it cycles.
Maybe it's something to do with, you know, how the cortex delegates the cerebellum for motor function, and the cerebellum kind of integrates it, and it's like, yeah, I got that, it's automatic, all good. But then if your cortex tries and like interferes with that, maybe something happens where you just lose it.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. That would be interesting, like to see what's, and then how do I avoid being stale? I think by, as I said, I fear and I always feel I'm not there. Like, I always feel I'm scratching the surface with everything. That's how I feel, and so
It's a good way to look at it, though. It keeps you humble.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, people since I was little referred to, I think they call it imposter syndrome or something. I've had that thrown quite a few times, and maybe, I don't know, but yes, like I accept that I don't know. I mean, I don't know why, I forget, and then I can only go back and look at it again and then make an effort. And
so you refer back directly to notes?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, even before getting this job, like I was, for example, technique. I had to do things, don't get me wrong, I modify techniques, and if there is a technique that someone shows me and I feel is reliable and it makes sense and it looks the way I portray techniques they should be, like using body weight and not brute force and all the stuff I has been ingrained in me from here, and that I thoroughly believe in, then I take it on board. So I broaden my techniques horizon of techniques available, if it matches those criteria that I have learned here. But I have a need to do things by the book. I really do. I don't know, it's this compulsion of, so I would refer back. I would go and watch video. I had saved all of the video. I'd saved like even year before, and then I wanted to save more, and then I got the job and I was like, I don't have to save anything more. I was thinking of an external drive. I was literally like, and I graduated and I was here doing summer classes because Chris Thomas was teaching and Granddad. And I always, look up to him. And he was one of the people who used to, the main person maybe, who used to make me understand techniques really quickly. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because he has more a direct, simplistic way of explaining. Yeah. And my over-analytical brain just, I don't know how he was drawn to that for some reason. But it was very, just do this and that. And then it would happen. While other people might, so I don't know how my different type of brain was drawn to that type of style. So I was here after graduated doing the summer classes with everyone else who had to do retakes, and then when I was like, so what exam do you have to retake? I've graduated. Why the hell are you here? And I was worried, scared of losing the way of doing things and getting into, that's my worry, getting into bad habits. Mm-hmm. And then not recognizing I got into bad habits and having no one there to...
That's so interesting that you say that, because Chris, it was fascinating actually having him in here today, because that's the first time I've ever had him in the class. Because I feel that you explain stuff really simply.
You see, I don't feel I do. I feel I do step by step, because that's how my brain works. And as a student, I needed to see, and I have this compulsion. I can't tell them to do this without explaining how you do it, what you feel, what you might visualize.
But those steps are simple. It's not like they're overcomplicated and you're like going into the exact nuances of everything straight away. Because those you learn when you actually get hands on. There's no point trying to tell someone that because they're not going to get it until you feel it. So.
But I'm glad you say that in a way, but that's my self-reflection after I teach. I'm like, if I taken too long, broken it too much down, but I know I can. But you see, it depends on the student you have in front. Some people may get overwhelmed, and that's why it's nice to teach with a variety of people, because every one of us contributes in a different way, which may appeal. Although as a teacher, my work in progress is to be able to modulate my teaching so I can appeal to the different needs instead of just accepting what strengths are, my strength may be, and then deciding, you know what, whoever is like this is going to listen to me and learn, and the others, someone else will do that, you know. So I think that's the ongoing challenge, and that's why I find teaching interesting. But I've always done that with the personal training, with the Pilates. We do that. We can't just say, of course we would love the motivated clients and hardcore that are going to listen, but the reality is what challenge. You said. That's the challenge, and it keeps you trying to find new ways to reach the person. But it's tiring. Yeah. I find it tiring.
we all learn in very different ways. So as students, you know, I agree. Chris Thomas has a completely different method of teaching to you. But both, I'm speaking from my perspective, both of you are equally informative, just in different ways. And then we all find our space within that teaching. So obviously, you know, you want to constantly improve your practice, but I don't know if there's so much of a pressure to like teach a certain way, because all of you are complementing each other in such a great way.
But you see, that's the thing. You find people who you admire, or you might look up to, or you might like traits. So you say, I like, because I always try to find something that is to take from. So I don't focus on what someone maybe do wrong if I'm observing other people. Of course you do that, but I try to find because I think everyone can do something that you can take and learn from. You see, I always thought I want to be like that practitioner, you know, this certain practitioner. I want to be like that. Or like when I was a dancer, I want to be like that dancer. You're never going to be. And
because you're not them.
And you shouldn't be. That's what I've accepted more and more as you go along. And then you're trying to just, you know, take traits and then mold your own persona into the teacher you can be, and with your personality, with your jokes, with whatever it is, your vibe, whatever, you know. Because I think if you try to be a copycat, and I think Chris Thomas said that when I first started, you know, that he was telling me not to be a copycat. He was trying to say, what is he trying to say? That if someone tries to be like somebody else, it appears as fake. You can see, you have that sense because it's not coming natural, but you have to find your own persona and your own character and color behind what you do. Obviously, I work already 2 weeks and then 2 days off, and then 2 weeks, 2 days off. But if I could cut anything, work-wise, work a little less, then I would like to do some masters. I always like pain science. I like a lot. Rheumatology. I just feel the need that I have to get another qualification. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's coming from an internal need to learn more. But pain science, yes, because actually it fascinates me. And I think it's a hard topic, so I'm taken by that challenge as well. But also because, or maybe it's because I see other people who have simply are more qualified, or, you know, you've got more qualification, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's driving it, but I think that's what I would like. Not as far as PhD, that's not going to happen. I never say never, but that's what I would like to do. And I also, again, it depends how, you know, how it plays with work, how much, if I can reduce any working time and then introduce some other work, that would be also NHS work. I've always thought, I was talking to another student today, and if I wouldn't have got this job in teaching, I would have liked to have worked within private practice and within the NHS, more because the multidisciplinary approach, so working alongside other practitioner, or even masters in physio, I always said I wanted to do, and then do actually the neurology, the rotation period. But again, because I started working and quite busy early on, then I haven't had the time, and I don't have the time so far. And it's all money as well. They're very expensive.
But there's still time.
Yeah, there's still time, and actually it's good to just stop and assimilate what you've done, and because it's endless of stuff that you can go through and, you know, reinforce and all that. So there's no hurry, but I think that's one thing I would say that is for sure. If I could work ever so slightly less, then I could invest the time, even would be like having every weekend off. That would give time to, even if you're doing an online masters, which they offer quite a lot, then at least you need to have time to study. So, but work is dictating, everything at the moment, which is fine because I love it. But as I said, yeah. So that's it, really.
So you'd like to work less to study more? Never ending journey.
No, I mean, I would like, ideally if I could just absorb via osmosis things, and not having to sit down and read for too long, or having a private tutor who just draws stuff for me, and and explains in a way that is just, because I love listening. I like to listen to explanation and all that, instead of just reading on the book. I don't like just sitting down and reading. So that's why I loved sitting down in lectures and listening to lectures. So that's what I would.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for sharing your interesting insights and so many facets of your experience. But,
thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We just want to thank UCO for being able to use their premises, and we will see you on the next episode of Table Talk.